Reporting live from Ibis Club, Fight Plus News, I'm John Abba.
Normally when a body's been floating, you'll see some bloating. I'm trying to think of the most respectful way to say it. The body did not seem at that height to be disproportionate to the way it should look.
Continue our coverage on the case of Nola Wells. On Monday, Wells' family, friends, and supporters would send off the 18-year-old who has taken over headlines after he'd reportedly go missing on July 4th during a trip with friends to a Mississippi island. Now, after a 2-day search, Wells' body would be mysteriously found washed ashore in the same location. To note, one of the biggest conversations that need to be answered for many have been, what are his autopsy results and how was the condition of his body? For those who watch Wells' service, they would notice that the family decided to not go with an open casket, drawing in more speculation if the condition of his body showed any signs of foul play. Now, while many would view his service from across the nation, Wells' rescue and ultimately body's condition would continue to be a conversation by one of the last people to see his body. During a new interview with TMZ, Cajun Navy's Brian Trasher would go on to stun viewers when he would share what he saw when Nolan was finally found. According to Trasher, who has been a part of the Cajun Navy for nearly 10 years, way up from his vantage point, Wells' body did not appear to be bloated like most drowning victims he's used to seeing.
We were coming back up north towards the northwest tip of Horn Island when we noticed there were boats in the center of the island where there's a lagoon tip. And then when we got closer, we noticed there were 2 boats already parked in tandem on the beach. That was strange. It was a Monday morning. It was obvious they weren't fishing. So we descended and to about maybe 450 feet, 500 feet. And we could tell it was law enforcement boats, law enforcement personnel. And then I noticed that there was what appeared to be a body right at the shoreline, laying face down. The one thing I'll say about the condition of the body, and again, I want to stress very, as much as I can, that I'm at 450 feet in the air. But normally when a body's been floating, you'll see some bloating and whatnot. He wasn't in the water that long. The water temperature was high. He has a low body mass index. Normally we'll look for a body to pop up on about day 4, but we knew it was possible he could pop up as soon as day 2. And this was day 2. I'm trying to think of the most respectful way to say it. The body did not seem at that height to be disproportionate to the way it should look. Now, I could not get a good look at his face. So I was really looking at, his back of his legs, back of his arms. And so that was my vantage point. And I just want to stress to everybody that that's not an ideal vantage point. And plus I'm flying at like 90 knots. So, I'm going pretty fast.
Now, as mentioned by Trasher, a drowning victim typically begins bloating after some time in the water, caused by bacteria inside the body producing gases. It is from the buildup of gases that causes the torso and other tissues to swell that often lead the body to rise to the surface. Now, here's where it gets interesting. According to research, bloating typically begins in warm water, 25 degrees Celsius or higher, around day 2 or day 3, and usually takes longer in cold water. Now, Wells' body was found on day 2 since he went missing, so that timeline aligns. But again, according to Trasher's vantage point, the condition of his body did not align with what many may have expected, because upon research and looking up the water temperature on Horn Island that day Nolan went missing, as well as July 5th and 6th, the water was considered warm to hot, meaning that a drowning victim should definitely show signs of bloating in those conditions. Now, to Trasher's point again, he did say he was flying above when he saw Wells' body, but his admission has caused some to add to the speculation of what really happened. In the comment section of his interview with TMZ, one user would go on to say, "Sounds like he was placed in the water that day," while another would write, "Definitely dumped overnight." Now, those 2 comments seem to reflect some people's feelings who believe foul play was involved, that Wells was somehow returned back to the island after allegedly being fatally attacked. Before his interview with TMZ would come to an end, Trasher would also go on to admit that he found it interesting that Wells' body would end up right back where he was last seen.
It seems like what happened was he was carried north, which indicates to me that he might have got caught in a rip current, and it carried him north. And then as the tide slacked and the current changed back to a southward heading, it carried him right back to the beach. The only thing that really stood out to me that I was not expecting is that he washed up very, very close to the last spot where he was seen alive. I wasn't expecting that.
Now, going back to Wells' funeral service on Monday, At the end of it, Wells' parents and team would continue to spearhead their message of getting justice for Nolan, and they would host a press conference to answer questions. Now, it is during this press conference that Representatives Ben Crump will take a moment to call out the slow results they've gotten from the first autopsy and toxicology conducted by the Mississippi State Examiner, conducted on July 7th.
It's always troublesome to all of us when these investigations just take forever. I mean, 6 months to get a toxicology report back, to get an autopsy done, as if, you know, the longer we let it go, the more people forget, other things happen, it gets swept under the rug. And so that's what's important, to have a timeline. And when you don't have that timeline, you start to say, oh, what Nolan Wells, what happened? I mean, I remember that case, but we got no answers.
Now, looking up, preliminary findings typically can be available within 2 to 3 days, and these findings usually outline initial observations and may provide an early indication of the cause of death. And as far as toxicology reports, they can take 4 to 8 weeks. Now, Crump would also share that they are anticipating to get back the first autopsy results before diving into their independent autopsy, since it could be an even better assessment of Nolan's body, given that the state medical examiner had his body much sooner to the time of his passing. Now, before the press conference would come to an end, Crump would go on to share that his team has even gotten a tip that Nolan was seen on the boat of the girl that he was allegedly last seen talking to. According to Crump, they just want the truth no matter who's to blame.
There are people who are presenting videos, photographs that may show Nolan was on the boat with the person, Katie. We got the fully vet that I respect so much what my mentor Reverend Al said up there. We're gonna go wherever the truth leads us.
As of now, Wells' parents continues to not have answers of what happened to their son that day.
I've seen the photos of his body on the beach. I couldn't see the face, the neck, the arms, the hands for defensive wounds. I couldn't see if there were bruises to the torso. I couldn't see if the skull was fractured. None of that. I couldn't see if teeth were missing. But it seems to me we would know there had been blunt force trauma, stabbing, shooting, manual or ligature asphyxiation. We would know that. But yet, we know nothing.
And a now $100,000 reward on behalf of Al Sharpton and Tyler Perry has been presented in an attempt to expedite those answers. Let's talk about them more in the comments below. Now that we're hearing from one of the rescuers sharing how Nolan's body appeared from his vantage point, does it add to more speculation, or could Wells' death be an unfortunate drowning that went unnoticed? Reporting live from Hypers Club, Fight Plus News, I'm John Abba.